Thank you very much, and welcome to the presentation. I'm very proud to be able to present here. My name is Michael Schneiders. I'm with PwC for more than 4 years, and I'm presenting, or we did a huge project, a good program, the Da Vinci program, and I want to introduce our experience. So in general, I'm manager at PwC. I'm more than 7 years now in consulting and advisory. I'm in the enterprise architecture piece of the consulting area and leading a team for data transformation and strategy. PwC started 2019 with the Da Vinci program, which is the biggest digitization program PwC ever did. The goal was to harmonize the contact to cash process on European level, and in addition to this, on a global level, replace the given system of records and to harmonize the system of records. So globally, PwC is now using as a CRM system Salesforce, as an ERP solution, Oracle and SAP S/4HANA Cloud, and for HC, we're using Workday. And more tools have been replaced as well. On the analytics end, we are using Microsoft Power BI and Separate BI as strategic tools. Every employee at PwC has a license for Separate BI and can use Separate BI in their reporting globally. In addition to this, by changing the technology and by changing the processes, we wanted to redefine the reporting scope and harmonize the reporting on the most important reporting dimensions like client, business unit, engagement, and further dimensions on PwC European level, which are the territories, Austria, Belgium, Switzerland, Germany, Netherlands, and Turkey. So doing all of this and changing the processes, changing the technology, and changing the reporting scope, we asked what is the best approach for this? Because we were facing dedicated challenges. And we needed to find out what do users really want. Yes, because we were facing, you can understand that organizations like in Germany or the Netherlands, which are quite huge, have a mature reporting organization, and they have different mentalities in place. While smaller territories like Belgium or Austria using more smaller organizations, and they have a different reporting demand. In the Netherlands, diversity reporting has much more importance than in Switzerland, for example. So it was our goal to find out what the users really want and to ensure that beside a controlling perspective, the user perspective is put in front, because we received many times the feedback of the current, of the old reporting, that much data is given, but in the end, the users are looking around for the data they really need. And so it was not really targeting the user demand. And therefore, we were using PwC's business experience technology approach, which is a framework based on design thinking to get a better understanding how we should design the future reporting and how the future reporting should look like, and how to put the user's demand in the first row. This framework is set into spaces. We have a problem space and a solution space. The problem space consists of the 3 steps: scope definition, research, problem redefinition. The solution space is set in the pieces: storyboard, storyline, wireframe, and implementation. I will go now through the steps and explain how we worked. So at the beginning, it was very important to us to have a scope definition. So we need to understand, okay, we are now analyzing business units, we are analyzing projects, we are analyzing engagements. And we started very, very small with a 1-pager, just describing, okay, this is like one piece of paper, and describing on a very high level, okay, what is the goal of the dashboard? What is the goal of the report? Overall goal was defined: information demand. Do we need a balance sheet in this? Do we need a revenue analysis? Do we need a WIP, an accounts receivable analysis? Who are the main users? Yes, is this used by line of service leaders? Is this used by engagement partners? Is this used by directors? Is this more used in an operational manner? So we fully wanted to understand, okay, who are the person using the dashboard behind? We've defined as well who is a product owner, mostly coming from the controlling area. And we have had a huge list of subject matter experts where we did interviews with. The subject matter experts came from multiple territories from all across PwC Europe. We have had people from the business, we had people from the controlling, we had people from IT. So we get a very heterogeneous crowd and covering all the demands. And of course, you had the project responsible who was driving all the development. Then in the next steps, we did a research phase. And we developed a questionnaire. So it looks like this. We had a harmonized questionnaire, which we went through with the users. Before we started with the interviews, we really explained to people, okay, this is the goal of the dashboard. This is the initial goal. So when we speak about engagement management, please focus on engagement management, and please do not bring in ideas about business unit management because it's dedicated pieces. Yes. And when the context was set and we had a common understanding of our goals, it was very important to let the people introduce themselves, to explain what is the job role, what are the responsibilities, and how they typically use the dashboards. And instead of asking, what data do you need? Or what is the information you want to see, we ask, how do you use the dashboard? Which problem are you trying to solve? Which action, which decision are you taking from the dashboard? And what business question are you looking answers for? What is the key information? So only in the last step, we asked about which data is being used. What is the frequency of data you're expecting, and what kind of technology or what kind of functionality are you expecting? Wrapping this up, we had a huge metrics in place. On average, we did per report interviews with 25 SMEs. And then we had a huge list of business questions and could really understand, okay, from which perspective, which demand was given. This led into a redefinition where we could really say, okay, this dashboard is providing a holistic overview from financial perspective. We need this and this functionality. We have this and this guiding principles. And these insights are needed. Yes, and which features are needed? What kind of filters? What kind of extra functionality is needed? And this was very, very interesting to see because then we fully understood, okay, what are the real user needs? What are the real user demands? And we understood, and we had a very, very clear problem definition in place, which we aligned again with all SMEs and got the buy-in from all people, from the management, from the business users, and from controlling and from IT. And then after we have understood the problem, we could start with the solutioning and solution definition. So getting to this, we used not fancy technology, actually, to be honest. We met in Frankfurt in the tower, so the people flew in from across Europe. And with the information we had already in place, we defined storyboards and storylines. So we defined actually what reporting objects are we having in context of a business unit reporting. Okay, we need a balance sheet, we need a revenue analysis, or we need NIC management, and what business questions are derived from this. Engagement management, there's a client perspective, there's a sales perspective, there's an operational perspective, on performance perspective, and so on. So we fully understood which analytical paths are needed in the dashboard development. Furthermore, we could really work out together with the team in an aligned manner which functionality is used and on which place and in which area this functionality is used. So it was more like a reconfirmation of the interviews we did before to be sure that all of the demands are really needed and that the users are asking for this. And then in the next step, we could prog all of this in an order and say, okay, this information is now your start page because this is covering the most crucial information. This is most of importance to you. And this is something you want to see immediately when you open the dashboard into context. And then the people could drive along multiple analytical paths and multiple ways on reaching the data. Of course, they could reach, for example, from the start page, any detailed page. This was really no problem. There were shortcuts given, drill-through paths given, but if the people were following the predefined paths, they could go on a sorted order along the value chain, how engagement management reporting should happen, for example, in this case. And when then this was in place, and we had a full understanding how the pages, so what pages are given and what data was given, then we started with a data landscape, meaning we defined page by page, tile by tile, which data should be displayed on each tile, which page or which tiles are given on each page, and which data should be displayed along these tiles. We had the story, the story identical paths in, and we had the filters actually given. So people understood immediately, okay, which way the data could be filtered. And we were showing in a basic manner the functionality. And here you can see, for example, this was pretty new to us. Fiscal year to date or year to date is a very common functionality used. Month to date is very commonly used. But what was newly demanded and was never given before was the functionality like job to date or engagement to date. For the first time, controlling and the IT understood, okay, we need a functionality where we can say, okay, what is the performance of an engagement from the beginning of the engagement until now. Yes, especially when we do a long time engagements like an audit engagement, which is going more than a year, sometimes 2, 3, 4 years. You want to understand, okay, how is the performance over the years? And this was then something really new to us. And then we could say, okay, this is a real user need. I can tell you from my own experience, when you show this to the users, it's very, very hard for the users to understand actually how all of this will look like in the end and to get a buy-in for this. To be honest, we had various discussions based on this, and we got really stuck on this, and we were very happy when we said, okay, now we're going to wireframe this. Yes, and this was something we did. We have used Power BI, we have used Adobe Experience Designer, and just the page you've seen before is now here displayed for the first time as the engagement one pager, where we say, okay, this and this information is the information needed. And so we could first discuss with our stakeholders if this is fulfilling their need. And to be honest, we needed per dashboard multiple iterations to go through this. Yes, so in the general, so when you check, for example, here you have dedicated information given. We use, for example, a very lot of KPI calculation schemas to explain, okay, how is the KPI being calculated, which elements to flow in, and broke up this respective calculations. When we first introduced this, we found out, okay, the priority on how the priority of the data, how the data should be ordered, is very dependent on the person who's looking at this. But in the end, we could find compromises aligning again and again the respective wireframes. So if you check, for example, in the second generation, the data has already been redesigned or reordered, and multiple splits have been reorganized. Yes. And then in the further development, we found out, okay, here we are just showing data of the performance which was it's more like backwards driven or driven to the future, to the past. What we really need is we need as well a strong perspective on the future. So we integrated multiple forecasts on cost development, hours development, how the future bookings on this the forward order book. And so we had a huge and deep understanding on how the data is needed and behave. And actually this is in the end the final version of the wireframes of the dashboard and how it's currently being implemented, or partially it's already live. And for the users, and we have gained a huge user acceptance for this. A huge user acceptance, and in the end, we are having very, very little discussions on okay, how shall this be used? is this information valuable to me? It's very, the acceptance is tremendous and the norm across all areas of the firm and across the territories. So what I can tell you is you need to do this, or you should do this iterative approach and involve your users in multiple discussions, align the data, align the wireframes, make the data visible, show how the data looks like the data behaves if you release an interaction, and go in and fit gap analysis, and then in the end, implement this in a very small prototype, select dedicated pages which are very important to the users, and just make it clickable in Power BI, and then use this prototype as the basis for implementation. Thank you very much.